time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild
Welcome, everyone, to episode 225 of Born to be Wild, a wild and wild-adjacent Hearthstone podcast where we have fun, hanging out with friends, talking about the wild and wild-adjacent formats of Hearthstone, and spotlighting members of the wild community. I'm your host, Hydralisk. It's great to be back on this wonderful Friday evening here in the greater Vancouver area. I'm joined by fellow host, Schmoopydady. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm in the snow. Show format, Schmoopydady. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/BornToBeWildHS, and the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you are watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis, this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Before we get into the main topic of the show, I would like to say a quick thank you to all the patrons of our show. Your show means your support, not the show. The show means the world to us, but your support means even more. So if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video on YouTube. Another simple way to support the show is to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching live on Twitch, we have some awesome emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to the channel. This is free if you use Amazon Prime. Finally, if you'd like to support the show financially, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 per month. We have some channels in the Discord that are unlocked by subscribing to the Patreon, where you can see the show coming together each week. Check it out. If you'd like to interact with us personally, please join our Discord, a free and amazing online community of friends across all of the world who love talking about wild Hearthstone. Links to all this stuff and more, including our merch, can be found on our website, which is www.borntobewildhs.com. All right. So, actually, you know what, Schmoopydady? I'm going to ask you how your week was first. That seems appropriate.
Okay. Cool, sure. Let's see. So, it's been a couple weeks. So, Schmoopy report. Most important Schmoopy accomplishments is Schmoopy beat the Elite Four on Fire Red. We were playing through the old version because, I was like, all right, we're gonna play something that your old man kind of knows, and this is the simplest Pokemon. And they've got over 1,000 now, and I stopped at Gen 4, so I was just I don't know. I stopped keeping track of how many of these guys there are. So yeah, he did it, and I had I helped him at one little spot where he had a little tricky revive. There was basically Exutor and Blastoise left on Gary, and I was just well, if you let Gyarados kick the bucket, you can use revive on Moltres. And he's like, Dad, that's a good idea. And so he pulled it off, and he can't read, so he's kind of figuring out what words revive in his backpack and whatnot. So there's a little bit of literacy there, and yeah, he took it home. It was really cool because he did a lot of the game himself. It's tough when you're illiterate to figure out what you're supposed to do in a game where it gives you all the directions in text, but. He caught all 3 legendary birds himself. Once I was just well, you got to get him low, you got to put a status on him, and then he did it and threw all the Ultra Balls, and he got there, and he just kept ramming his head into the Elite Four. He would go and he'd lose, but he'd get a little further each time, and it was inspiring to see. Nice. So that's my Schmoopy update. Is he's now he's caught Mewtwo. He's like, Dad, the end game's boring. When's Leaf Green? I'm like, all right, we'll see. From a Hearthstone perspective, or actually personal for me perspective, it was my birthday. So I got as a gifts some really cool sweatshirts that Schmoopy Mommy had custom done. One says Viewer Deck Test Dummy. That's Another great. One says, I am the last wild player having fun. That's
not inaccurate.
not entirely inaccurate. I think that's the Go Live message that I send on Twitch, and I haven't changed it for months because I can't top it. So it's just like, I'll just leave it as this. This looks all right. And another one it says wild player, but the I is an exclamation point, trying to hide more sensitive sensibilities from the fact that the word is in fact wild, so we censor wild so that you don't disturb people and traumatize, right? So that's something I type out occasionally in Twitch chat. So it's cool for me. So that I have a sweatshirt that isn't doxing in any way, because I have a bunch of college sweatshirts, but I don't want to wear my college sweatshirts. I have a bunch of sweatshirts for my work. I don't want to wear my work sweatshirts. I have Born to Be Wild sweatshirts, and I have a Hearthstone sweatshirt. And I haven't found my Born to Be Wild sweatshirt in a long time, and the Hearthstone sweatshirt is going on like day 27 of me wearing it for like 2 hours, and I start thinking, when is it wash time for something you exclusively wear just for staying cozy on stream? So having these as options was pretty cool.
Well, if you're looking for Born to Be Wild merch, you can always go to
that's true. It's true. I don't. Do we have sweatshirts? I don't remember if we have sweatshirts anymore.
I mean, we do. We
used to. I don't know if we still do.
Well, you know what?
Maybe we should change that. Maybe somebody should talk. Maybe somebody should talk to those bums and get their act together. The other thing that was kind of cool is we had that huge balance patch, and like I saw somebody on Discord was like, "Oh yeah, I got like." It's like, wow, my dust before, my dust after, and they were going from like 60K dust to like 80K dust, and I was like, that's a bananas amount of dust. I wonder how much I get. And so I took a little screenshot of how much I had. I had a measly 115 spare dust on hand, and when I was done dusting for the nerfs, I had 10,415 dust. Never dust extra copies unless you absolutely have to. I even kept my one copy of Reska and my gold Reno Lone Ranger because those cards will still see play. Those cards will still be fine. And I like having a full collection. So I don't dust copies I can't use. The only exception to that was I got to dust my golden Quasars and all my Quasars because we're going to get the signature Quasars once we get the whole set. So, no harm, no foul. Just get rid of the Quasars now. And then I packed another Quasar the other day, and I was just like, yes, another 400 dust. So it's absolutely bananas.
Nice.
Hydra, how was your week?
Yeah, so I had a pretty interesting last 2 weeks, I guess.
Weeks.
So I'll do a little update on my books. So I'm on this pathway. Sheep always says he wants me to get to 44, but the idea was I needed to get more than like 31 or 33 books or something this year because that's how many I read last year. And so in between us talking last time, I started and completed Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Now,
nice.
For anybody who's seen this movie, you've read the book, basically. There is...
Okay.
Like, basically, for the first 3/4 of the book, it is word for word the entire time. Like, it's like Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro had the book instead of a script. It's the exact same. And then towards the end, they just cut some fat. And that's about it, really. But... It was pretty good. I mean, it's exactly what I expected, really, but with some additional content. And then since then, I started reading Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho. So,
nice.
Most of us have probably seen that movie with Christian Bale and like Jared Leto.
It's hip to be a square.
Hip to be a square. Is that a raincoat? So. I have to go return some videotapes, but this book so far is really good. You have to beware. There is some language that is used in it that was appropriate in the 80s, at least quote unquote appropriate. Probably still edgy in the 80s, and it's a little colorful.
Has not aged well.
It has not aged well. Let's go with that. So I would like to say, yeah, be careful if maybe that's something you may be sensitive to. That stuff is there, but it's so far also on track with the movie, and it's pretty good. Other than that, so last weekend we were gonna do a show, but my father decides to call me and say, "Hello, Hydralisk. Would you like to go to the Grey Cup?" And if you're not familiar with the Grey Cup, that is Canada's version of the Super Bowl. So we have the
cool.
CFL, not the NFL. And it was the finals, and it was Winnipeg versus Toronto. And my dad said, "Hey, would you like to go?" And I'm like, "That's cool. Sure." And apparently a bunch of my family all got together and decided that they were all going to get tickets. And we bought like a whole row of seats.
That's awesome.
And it was something like 60,000 people or something like that in the stadium. And so it was in Vancouver, and Vancouver, or the BC Lions is the team that we have here. They didn't even make like the finals, the Grey Cup, but
Unlucky.
Yeah,
Next
unlucky.
year. Next year's your year.
Next year. But I used to live in Winnipeg when I was a child, so I just cheered for that team. May as well, right? So they didn't win, but that was okay. This was more of a like social event.
Next year's your year.
Like my dad and I, we caught the SkyTrain downtown Vancouver, and we went to a pub, and we got chicken wings and beer and stuff. And he flew here, like he doesn't live here, right? So he flew here for this, and we had a good sort of father-son thing going. And then we met up with some more family when we got to the game, and we bought $12 beers at the game, which was insane.
Which as you do at professional sporting events.
You do.
Yep.
Yeah. So
as one does.
Yeah, so we did that thing, and it was just a good time, like really having fun with your family. So, and the Jonas, was it the Jonas Brothers? I think it was the Jonas Brothers like played the halftime show. I don't know any of their music, but they performed well.
You know what? I wasn't sure. I know it's your week, but I think since we've last seen each other, which I think has been longer than that, because I think you were out one show, right? So we missed a show and you were out one show. I went to the Giants game with my mom, and because it's like a thing that we used to do. Like she used to get tickets, and it's just me and her, and it's like one of the only things that's really just like me and her, and it's just like for a full day, and it's cool. And we started doing it when I was a teenager, and I could learn how to drive, and so now that's how I learned how to like merge in traffic. But one of the sites that we'd seen, because like it's the most interesting thing that happened, the Giants suck, was the Budweiser cart was in front of our bus. But, most horse-drawn carriages, there's something like a tasteful sheet behind the horses' behinds, because the horses don't stop to use the toilet. They just leave the road apples wherever they're at. And like
they lift their tail.
Yeah, and I thank them for that. But there's a sheet to catch the droppings, right? Well, not on the very ornate, conceptually wrought Budweiser thing. So when the horses dropped, they dropped on the road itself. There was no sheet catching anything. So there is a Giants employee whose job it was to ride a respectful distance behind the Budweiser cart in a gator with a shovel and a bucket. And this person, this person also required next to them on the left, an even more respectful distance apart, a New Jersey state trooper to stop traffic so this gentleman could get out of his gator and shovel the road apples into the bucket, stopping traffic in both directions so that he can complete this task. It was the most bizarre things I have ever seen, as far as like, man, this is just about as inefficient as this process could ever at every stage. Is hysterical. And it happened at a football game, and you said a football game, and I hadn't gotten to tell you yet, and you're my friend, Hydra, so thank you for giving me this brief amount of time to share that.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening and I'm not watching, because we do have the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, right? which some of them.
Oh yeah, where did their horses drop? Wherever. Wherever, I bet.
I've never
Do the
noticed
Mounties
anyone
have a
following
pooper
them. That's
Do
so
the
funny
Mounties have a
because
pooper scooper?
I have
Or
no
do they
idea.
just always like have their horses just sort of like tactfully stand on grass, and that way like you really don't.
And you have to remember, like, yes, that they are called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, but they don't actually all ride around on horses. That's
Well, I
that
feel
is-
lied to at this point.
that is just their dress uniform when they do that. They drive in cop cars, right, with regular cop uniforms.
Stop! No, you can't tell me this. Are you to tell me that police in Britain ride more horses than the Mounties? What is happening right now? My mind is blown.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry to blow all the Canadian.
So you're just
stereotypes.
You're just mounting a Ford. That's it. You're not mounting a steed, but I'm just a horseless carriage.
They do have Mustangs, so
It makes it a little better. It's kind of a horse. It's horse adjacent. We like adjacent on this podcast.
right. Yeah. This is Hearthstone adjacent football expansion. All right. So other than that, I didn't benefit as much as you did, but I also didn't dust everything. I dusted copies, so I didn't get rid of Reno Lone Ranger. Like he's still there because I'm one of those people that need to have that 100% collection at all times. If it doesn't say 100, I feel weird about it. So I didn't dust Reno Lone Ranger and anything else.
That's still a good card. There's no reason to dust it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
People are like, Reno's dead. I'm like, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
made the
But
right-
so
you made the right
I
decision.
got like 4,500 dust or something like that.
That's a couple legendaries. That's pretty good.
Exactly. And I needed to get the Ceaseless Expanse anyway. So like
Oh, sick. Cool.
that kind of worked out. So, and I get so annoyed with these weekly quests. I think they've done it right this time, but I'm like waiting on the next one. I completed them really fast this time because I had that complaint about how the last time it was sort of bugged. If you completed it too late, it gave you another 7 days. Like if you complete on the last day, you had to wait an extra 7 days to start. And
Right. Yep.
And I kept like squawking about it, and everyone thought it was crazy, but it was real. It was bad. That's why they extended it a whole week. I was messaging Hat. I'm like, nobody believes me, but I think this is broken. Can you please fix? I need to get my Patches hero skin, please.
I love how Hat is very quietly or not so quietly just like the complaint counter. He's like,
also
he's like-
my IT guy. I'm like, hey, Hat, why is my Hearthstone not working? Please help me.
You guys think that Hat's like, he's always writing up like missives and stuff to like blast out to Blizzard to communicate effectively? No, he's trying to fix Hydra's
man.
computer.
When I very first, before Born to Be Wild, I used to stream Wild Hearthstone. No way. And I haven't really done that in a long time, but I did. It was really big into streaming Q-Block. I don't know. It was just a thing. And but when I was trying to get that working, Hat was my troubleshooter for why my stream wasn't working.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy, that Hat. But that's about it. So I think maybe we jump into some news. Welcome to the news. The news is so good. Well, we weren't here last week, so we're going to touch on something we missed. We had the 30th anniversary of Warcraft, which is pretty sweet, in all honesty. It's been around for a long time, and the last episode, like 2 episodes ago, I was talking about I didn't know this was coming, but I was talking about Warcraft 1 and how janky it is when you play it.
Yeah.
And how like the mini map doesn't work properly, and like it's super difficult. And I basically said, I dare you to try to beat it these days. And then Blizzard re-released it, and
Yeah.
the other original Warcraft games, so like Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, like Warcraft 3 Reforged with some tweaks. I know people didn't like when they redid Warcraft 3, but now they're trying to make it work for everybody.
Classic Warcraft.
Yeah, it's classic Warcraft 3.
People were joking, or at least I was joking. I was just like, it's gonna be like Disney. Like Disney every once in a while like sends out like, remastered, they like resell like Cinderella, and like there's a brand new audience, so like it sells like hotcakes. They're just gonna keep churning this out. We're gonna have classic, and classic. It's gonna be a great time.
Yeah. Warcraft 3 was an interesting one because that's when they started introducing more of the hero style thing in it. So the first two were more of like just your RTS game. So was Warcraft 3. You couldn't build as many minions. You had the minion cap was like way lower.
Gotcha.
But then the hero system really came in where you would have, all of the heroes that you see in Hearthstone really, and they had like Maiev, and Maiev had talents, like that kind of thing. Like
cool.
Yeah. So like Fan of Knives. I remember Fan of Knives was a thing. Like it was super cool. I enjoyed it very much, and I was like a chieftain. They introduced this thing on BattleNet where you could form clans on BattleNet and have like a real clan chat. And there was like certain people you could be a chieftain, and you were like top of the clan in your clan chat on BattleNet, and everyone came there and they joined the same thing and all spoke in that section. They had it before, but it wasn't structured. This one was actually structured by Blizzard. So you couldn't just have bots come in and attack your channel and stuff, because that was a huge thing with StarCraft. It was miserable. But anyway, I digress. Bringing back some memories, I suppose. This is super cool.
We're dredging deep.
I bought it because why wouldn't I? In Canada, this is $53.99. In United States, it's $39.99. For me, it was like $20 because it said I already owned most of it already. Like maybe because I owned the originals
so they were
or something.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I paid like it was like $22 or something, and I was like, sure, I will take that. So may as well take it. So that was super exciting. Then the other thing that they announced, which was super cool to me, was the fact that the mini set that's coming out is a StarCraft mini set.
Yes.
Which like mind
How many
blown.
pings did you get? How many people were just like at
all of the
Hydralisk
people.
StarCraft
yeah.
mini set? At Hydralisk StarCraft mini set.
It was great, in all honesty, because if you know what my name is, it's Hydros. That is a Zerg unit. So yeah, people were reaching out left and right saying like, hey, it's happening. So in my opinion, this is coming because they're gonna do something for StarCraft. Like, why else? It just seems out of complete left field. Why would they?
Space is a space expansion. They had to touch StarCraft. They're probably
true,
this is probably a trial balloon for like other like Blizzard or whatever properties kind of sneaking their way in and having their theme expansion. It's a mini set, and it's a classic Blizzard game, and it's in theme with the set that's currently going. Like it's just like the perfect like trial case scenario.
I will say they did Diablo stuff, but they were also releasing new Diablo content.
Oh, so, but like a little yes, and a little sprinkle too, right? Like we'd see him in duels for a little bit, or we'd see like pretty much is that it? Just in duels,
yeah.
Some tavern brawls, just a little sprinkle. Oh, mercenaries, but who cares about mercenaries? Yeah, unlucky. Yeah. That's that kind of thing.
A few days after this, there was a supposed leak. I cannot confirm or deny whether it's true or not, about an ESRB rating for a game popped up in the new rating systems for a new StarCraft. Rated teen for language and blood and violence or something like that. And it popped up and it was just labeled as StarCraft. Did someone fake this article? I don't know, but it's popping up all over the internet now. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It's my theory that something is going to happen with StarCraft. It's been since 2010 since StarCraft 2 came out. They released a couple expansions afterwards. They did the Terran, the Zerg, and the Protoss. Each had their own campaign expansion kind of thing.
Is there still a market for real-time strategy games? I mean, we've had some good real-time strategy games released since that are like
Maybe it won't be a real-time strategy game. So
maybe not.
Blizzard has twice made a shooter StarCraft game and canceled it. So back in the early 2000s, there was StarCraft Ghost, and I used to go to the Blizzard website and look at updates on it constantly. And then it was canceled in like 2006. And then
like
they did
Ghost.
it. Yeah.
I don't know why you were surprised.
And then they did it. They did it again in like 2017. I can't remember the name of that one, but they tried again, and it was in development for like 2 years this time, and they canceled it. That one had a different name. So yeah, who knows? I think they got to be doing something with it. StarCraft is responsible for bringing esports to, like, putting it on the map, right? Like, it filled arenas. Like, the original StarCraft filled arenas 25 years ago. So, like, it's a huge part of why esports became successful. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're working on something. Anyways, so the expansion, Heroes of StarCraft, basically they're going to give us a bunch of new cards and some heroes. So I'll read straight from the site. Early next year, Hearthstone is going beyond Warcraft and into Heroes of StarCraft. This special mini set will have a whopping 49 new cards across 3 themed factions, which show what the StarCraft universe would look like in a Hearthstone tavern. Each faction is made up of cards that can be used across multiple classes, including an iconic hero card. So for Zerg, all right, so yeah, if you don't know, there's 3 main classes in Hearthstone. It's Zerg, Protoss, Terran. So for Zerg, you're going to be able to use your Zerg hero and Zerg cards with Death Knight, Demon Hunter, Hunter, and Warlock. Led by
Spooky.
Sarah Kerrigan. They will have aggressive cards that will win the game by swarming the board. I'm going to address something that Blister Guy had brought up in his podcast, Walk to Work, about Sarah Kerrigan having a very human-sounding name. Sarah Kerrigan was a human, but was then taken over by Zerg. They get infested, so that, like, Zerg can infest other, like, beings or whatever. And so that's the reason. So it could sound confusing that this alien has a very human,
very
name.
Irish,
or very Terran name. So yeah, just infested Kerrigan.
Okay,
Yeah.
Irish bug, got it.
Yeah. So then we got the Protoss. So Druid, Mage, Priest, and Rogue fight for the Protoss Empire, led by the High Templar Artanis. They will have a powerful, high-cost cards that are made cheaper throughout the game. That's interesting. Yeah, Protoss is known for extremely strong, like, shielded units, that kind of thing. So going with Druid, like, maybe there's some armor going there. Maybe, like, Mage gets armor. I don't know, but they're like,
good. Let's give Mage more armor. Let's give Priest armor. That sounds like that's gonna go great.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, because they're known for that, and, like, spells.
Wait, why are we armoring the rogues?
I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying that they're really
rogues?
like high
wanna give
armored
rogues
units
armor.
is a thing that they do. I'm just and they're stealthy too. So there's this thing called a Dark Templar in the game, and they've got stealth, and they're really, really annoying. You would call it a DT rush. You could rush your opponent with stealth units, and there's nothing you could do about it if you weren't prepared for it. I used to do it all the time. DT, Dark Templar.
Okay. He's like, I used to do it all the time. It's like, oh, you were committing war crimes before you were playing wild and committing war crimes. I see how this goes. It's worth mentioning that we are spreading cards across, making them playable not across 2 classes, which can be hard to balance, not across 3 classes, which can be harder to balance, across 4 classes, which I think is like, the only thing that's harder is, I guess, making a neutral, lol. But, like, every time you're making something that's supposed to be a class card that's supposed to be kind of powerful and giving it a mechanic or a theme that maybe doesn't always fit with the other class that it's fit with. Like do rogue, like let's say it is gain armor. Okay, gaining armor for a priest, that's not very useful, right? Because they have all the heals. They don't really care about gaining armor. At least unless there's like a death rattle involved, and then there's some synergy, whatever. But like rogues have squishy faces for a reason. It's so that they can do rogue things, and if you hit them hard enough in their squishy face, they can't do their rogue things anymore. Giving a rogue armor is like, especially if they can do it easily. That gives them more backup to do squishy rogue things. So that's a little spooky. It's gonna be interesting. Like again, like brace for yet another high impact mini set probably that blows up standard for 2 weeks, and Wild has a great time with it, and then standard nukes all the fun cards, and we kind of get pissed.
Right. So the next one is Terran. So this in StarCraft is like the human class, hence Terran. So this is going to be Paladin, Shaman, and Warrior make up the Terran forces, led by the one and only Jim Raynor. They will command battle cruisers, a special take on starship mechanics from the Great Dark Beyond. Holy crap. So, if the starships, battle cruisers have this special thing called the Yamato gun, that like you have to upgrade to get it. And then when you do it, it's like a one shot on a building kind of thing when it shoots it.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts. So when you upgrade your battle cruisers in StarCraft, you got to make sure you get the Yamato gun and you use it. I'm guessing that's going to happen with this starship. And if they have the same effect with I can picture the Yamato gun shooting now. It's super cool.
Putting together some sort of Exodia type combo sounds fine for Paladin, sounds right up the hill for Shaman, and sounds like the kind of cope thing we're going to try in Warrior, and it's going to suck. I think this is kind of like perfectly themed. Every class looks like they're going to be getting something that's pretty much on theme, and Warrior's theme is the cards suck, so that's perfect.
Yeah. And as a final comment on here, the mini set will feature a slew of StarCraft units, which are sure to invoke nostalgia, as well as the Terran armored Murloc Grunty and new thematic music. I can hear the music in my headphones already. You can start a course for the Heroes of StarCraft mini set launching in January 2025. More announcements, details, and card reveals closer to launch. That's super cool. Launch. That's like a pun almost. That's great.
True.
Right?
True.
All right. So next in the news is Arena. Let's go with Arena.
Arena?
Right?
Want me to read Arena?
Yeah. Give her.
Sure. Major Arena updates. Then, for the first time in 10 years, Arena mode is getting a major overhaul. With that update, there will be two kinds of Arena to choose from. Normal Arena will be shorter form and allowing you to complete your runs more quickly. Competitive Arena players will be able to play in the higher stakes Underground Arena with longer runs and a new feature. Redraft on Lost. Redraft on Lost means that, after you lose, you'll have the option to redraft cards, edit your deck, and keep your run alive. Ratings will be added to both Normal and Underground Arena. Normal skill-based matchmaking will be used for the Normal Arena. Underground Arena throws caution to the wind and lets you face off against opponents of all skill levels. This major Arena revamp is coming for the first half of next year. Look for more details about this update closer to when it goes live. So I am hearing mixed things about this from people that have done more research than me, that like I'm reading this as this is replacing the current Arena, and I don't know if that's like something that I want if I'm an Arena player. But I'm told that the redraft on loss is a feature that, again, I was told this, Arena players have been asking for forever. Wanting to change up cards on their run, being an option. So that's cool that they're adding this. This is things that, like, I guess the Arena bros like as far as the redrafting goes. The fact that they are not going to be tiering the queue for the high stakes one, it's kind of juicy for somebody like me who's probably on the upper end of the spectrum, where it's like I'm not going to get rank 1 in standard with all the guys that are pros that are making money, like winning games for everything. But at the same time, I'm probably better than the average player. And so if there's an even swath of, caliber of players hopping into the underground arena, I'm probably going to be making some bank. So that's kind of the Gamba part of me is kind of like looking at that and licking my lips and saying, maybe we can use this to our advantage. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, but also like it makes it spooky for me that if this is replacing Arena, I don't know if I want to let go of the old Arena. Hydra, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know the full details of the redraft on laws. I think it's like a handful of cards, basically, that is what, the rumor mill is maybe it's like 5 cards, something like that you can choose to replace. I don't think you're redrafting your whole deck at this point. I think it's
that's fine. But even if you're like tweaking your result, like there's some drafts where you're looking at it and you're just like, man, I got some good cards, but I had some real rough choices on this one. And and then you draw those cards and you tilt a little bit because you're just like, well, I have no synergy with this. Great. I'm glad I'm pulling my secrets that don't exist in my deck.
Maybe redraft will try to synergize more. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But I think shorter runs are cooler. Honestly,
Okay.
For me, so I'm not the type of person that can sit down and do like a 12 win run. I only have ever had 9 wins as my highest, but I'm not the type of person that can sit down and usually do that in one sitting.
No.
Like it can't happen for me. So if you play 12 wins, 3 losses, or I guess you can't do that, but like 11 wins, 3 losses or whatever, that's 14 games.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
That's a lot, including the draft. And
it's not a fast format. It's not like you're winning
not a
turn 3, turn
By
4.
no means.
Like 90% of the time, it's not a fast format. A lot of times, the best play in Arena is to just kind of like play it safe, don't get punished. Play it safe, don't get punished. Play the value plays, that kind of style. So it's not fast games.
There's more at stake because you're basically paying to play, right? So people take their time a lot more than they do just playing ranked.
I don't, but that my brain is addled from playing too much Wild. So
I think it's cool. I think Arena has been around for obviously since the beginning, and this can breathe some new life into it. I don't know the stats. They gave us the stats before of how many people are playing what format. Like Blizzard actually told us at one point.
Ages ago. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what it is now. I'm guessing Arena isn't very high up there, and they're trying to make it that way because it's a really cool format and not that many people play it. So
it's fun for me right now. It feels very Wild-esque. There's some pretty crazy swing turns that I think drive like OG Arena streamers absolutely batty. Like they can't stand them because you didn't used to have the same power swing in Arena. Now there's a little bit more. Random is almost always powerful unless the pool is absolutely putrid. Randomly generating resources and a lot of discover and a lot of value, and you can't possibly play around every discover, which is again another thing that kind of like turns off a lot of OG Arena players who are used to a little bit more of a grindy experience. So maybe this is an opportunity to not only zhuzh it up but attract a new brand of Arena players. But it feels like it feels like Wild to me. Like I enjoy playing it, and I didn't always used to enjoy Arena.
It'll probably get me into it a little bit more. I basically play it whenever I get the weekly quest to either do Tavern Brawl, Arena, or what's the third option. And then I like to choose Arena for that, unless there's a really fun Tavern Brawl to do it in. But Arena comes with rewards, so why wouldn't you?
It's a Gamba.
Win or play 5 Arena games. Anyway, so the next thing that was announced was the year of the Raptor. And they did something quite interesting here, which is not normally like Hearthstone. They decided to announce the next 3 expansions, which was, a Hearthstone first, as far as I can tell. Like there's usually all this hype and secrecy, and then it finally gets announced. People looking for leaks and everything, but they dropped it. So
Yeah, I heard some people kind of disappointed that they did this. That they were kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, here's what they're going to be. Instead of like generating hype, it was like, especially our own Goliath the dwarf is like, oh man, I was looking forward to like looking at clues and trying to sleuth it out.
yeah,
Like,
they
and
usually
like
give us the little art where you get to like try to figure it out and look at the picture and see.
I mean,
what
I
you
never
think
get
it's
it
gonna
right.
be.
I'm not like I never played Warcraft. The only Warcraft experience I have is through Hearthstone. So like, I get it. The OG Warcraft players like, oh man, it's totally this thing. I look at it, I'm just like, yeah, it looks like a croissant or something. I don't know. What's that shape? I don't know. So like I'm never on the ball as far as like these things. So like for this is great for me. I'm like, oh, I kind of know where we're going now. That's kind of cool. But like I can see where there is a significant portion of the community that's just like, oh man, it's kind of a bummer we know already.
Yeah. Well, here's where it kind of gets interesting if they're going to build that hype. So, in the first expansion of the year, enter the Emerald Dream and join the battle between the old gods and the druids of the Emerald Dream for the fate of the World Tree. Like that sounds cool. And then it goes on to say things will even heat up more when the druids of the flame light up with the mini set after that. So like the more old god stuff versus like Emerald Dream stuff, like
Always hype. Always hype.
so
'Cause
more
it's gonna be
dragons,
big.
dragons versus old gods expansion.
Sick. Yes. Right? Let's get some value bombs. Let's chuck them at each other.
Like old
Before
gods
you say,
versus
well,
dragons.
they're going to be
Like,
too slow for Wild. Yeah, it would we can talk about some trends in Wild when we talk about the balance patch. Holy cow, the renathalization of the format. No, like that. This could get really cool. I am hyped for this set in particular, and it's worth noting that they did mention that the next 3 expansions, the reason why they're kind of doing it this way is they are storyboarding. So like there is a story they are telling from the first expansion that carries through to the second expansion that carries through to the third expansion. So it's worth noting that.
yeah. Yep, that's a good point.
Which is cool because they haven't done that in a while. So it's neat that they get to tell a story again.
So the second expansion of the year will be Hearthstone's first ever actual sequel, Return to Ungoro Freighter. So join Elise on a hunt for a mythical lost Tortolan city. When you find it, join the Tortolans in a festival to celebrate the mighty dinosaurs of the crater in the 33.4 mini set. So that's cool. Like Ungoro was a huge deal when it came out.
Yeah.
Like super cool. Like what are they going to do? Are they going to make a board that encompasses all 3 of these expansions because they're doing one board per year? Like I don't know what they're going to do, but like I love the Ungoro board. Like maybe we'll see it more often during that expansion or something, because like the volcanoes, you got to do it like over and over again when it's your opponent's turn, right?
True. If you know how to do the volcanoes, or you play on mobile like me, and there is no volcano, because that's where my opponent's hand is.
Right.
I've been volcano-less. There's been leaves I've played with. I've played with leaves. I haven't played with the volcano.
Yeah. Well, the third expansion of the year, travel with Chromie through alternate realities to recruit legendary Warcraft heroes like you've never seen them before. Leading into the 34.4 mini set, an epic showdown against Murazond at the end of time. So this is neat, like legendary minions that you've never seen before, legendary heroes like you've never seen them before. So twists on the current heroes that we have in a different time.
Twist.
Aw, sorry. Rip.
Can't believe you said twist, man.
It'll be back.
You can't.
It'll be back.
You can't. Got to take that back. No, that sounds really cool. And honestly, like all 3 of these expansions sound kind of hype in their own way. And not only that, this kind of feels like the sort of year I think we were kind of expecting coming into this sort of anniversary year. It's like, yeah, like how about 3 hype expansions where the theme's like a banger each time? And I don't know if that's necessarily like the community. And I hear a lot of people in the community kind of be like, well, like the ones that care about theming. I don't. But like the ones that care about theming, they're just like, man, like, it doesn't feel very anniversary-y, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Well, as opposed to these three, seems like, man, that's like three, like we're going to be legendary Warcraft heroes. We're just going to be getting some fan favorites, but like designed a little bit differently and maybe a little bit more awesome. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's neat. It provides some hype. And then what about the end? So like the last mini set is called The End of Time. Does that have like a double meaning? Or is that just the name of the mini set?
Are you saying is Hearthstone ending at the end of that expansion?
So after
like Reddit
you buy
is?
all of these expansions, done, servers
it's
cut
Jover.
off.
It's We're canceling
over.
Hearthstone after the
Hearthstone
the last
canceled.
expansion.
It says The End of Time. So no more Hearthstone. You heard
I'm
it
not.
here first. No, just kidding.
I'm not choosing to believe that, but the fact that was immediately the first takeaway from people in some corners of the internet, as the video ended, I find endlessly entertaining.
I'm sure
they said it's over. I know you're not being serious, but like there are people being serious. They're like, no, they're telling us this is it. They're going to delete Hearthstone, dude. They're doing, they just got China back. Like I know. I think Hearthstone's here. I think Hearthstone's here to stay, guys.
Let's dangle the carrot. Bring back China. Buy all the expansions you missed, and we'll take it away
fine.
again.
They're doing fine. So we'll be. This sounds like a fun year, and I don't think Hearthstone's going to end at the end of time. And anyway, these are all like these are all Into the Emerald Dream, I believe, is the agreed upon title for the expansion. The other sort of temporary titles, I think there's an asterisk next to each one. The Shrouded City, the Heroes of Time. These are not the final names for these expansions, I believe. I think these are going to be workshopped a little bit more to be a little bit catchier, or not, and we'll see how it goes.
We got some more news, but we're going to move this into our discussion topic because there's a lot to discuss.
Perfect.
We were given some, the thing that we always get before a big balance patch is coming, and we had our, red and green and red circled day, and this was a lot.
This is
to
a lot
look at.
Like
a lot, and people automatically zoom in on Reno because you can see it in the red side.
Because of trauma.
So,
yes. Yep.
Because of trauma. So
because we're traumatized. Yes.
So without further ado, I feel like we can just jump into it, really.
Sure.
So we have the 31.03 patch notes. So basically, the dev comments are. I feel like I don't need to go through these ones. It's
TLDR it. Yeah.
It's the whole idea of, the old decks are still too powerful and the new decks aren't as powerful as they wanted them to be. So they're going to nerf some old stuff to match the strength of the new stuff. And then like the long-term, overall power of
this
sets,
is huge.
Yeah. So want to be closer to the Great Dark Beyond than the power level of sets before it. So they're just trying to make, it's kind of, they say this every time, old sets are more powerful than new sets.
This is I think this is big news. I think to a certain extent the type of player that devs are trying to make happy with new cards is going to be closer to like Timmy's than Spike's. I think it's going to be a lot closer to the casual enjoyer of Hearthstone than it is to the competitive scene. Because if they want to bring down the power level, like intrinsically, the reason why you have power creep in a card game is because power creep keeps the card game interesting. The card game advances, it evolves. You get more synergies, you get a larger card library, you get more combinations. It just naturally happens, and it's okay. It's not a dirty word. But I feel like with a comment like this, and you can let me know if you feel differently, but I feel like they almost want to like not only throw a handbrake on Hearthstone, but like bring it backwards. Like, I don't know how successful they've been in recruiting new Hearthstone players. Meanwhile, we're watching more and more, especially high-profile Hearthstone content creators, kind of bleed off and do different things and try different games and say, well, Hearthstone's not quite the game that I remember it being, and I want to play something different. So, like, I wonder if they want to, like, go back, if you can. I don't. It feels like they're trying to go backwards, and they're signaling that they want to go backwards, and that's fine. That's an approach but like that is a very different sea change from like they were going more the other route where they're making things stronger and they're making things more intricate and with a little bit more flexibility. And this is kind of going the other way back to like Curvestone more, I think.
So basically, there are three. The criteria, there's three main criteria. The first one we already discussed. It's older cards that are too powerful, right? So the second one is cards that lead to frustrating experiences is their second on the list.
I am frustrated when my opponent plays any card in Hearthstone. You are frustrating me. Just hit the concede button.
Even if the card is not powerful, they say. So frustrating yet not powerful. I
am frustrated that my opponent has played an Eater of Secrets over Tight-Lipped Witness yet again. Blizzard, do something about this.
And then cards that were overly hostile to new expansion cards and mechanics, like starships. So over hostile. So they didn't make they didn't make starships good enough, and so there's cards that are overly hostile to them, so they have to rectify that going forward.
This is the second huge balance patch that is like kind of like we had the big one that did a lot in Wild going into the expansion, right? And we had a huge balance patch right at the end of an expansion that almost never happens. And it was kind of softening the ground for starships to land. And then they were still crashing and burning. And so we're trying it again. And unclear if it's going to be successful. It's starships are cool. You can do some cool wild things with starships. Like you can play like I'm going to call it Line Cracker Rogue, where basically you just like keep gaining armor and you do the old like Mine Rogue, Scourge Illusionist, Terran Gorfine, make a bunch of copies from Scourge Illusionist. But instead of mines, you're doing the starship piece that gives you 6 armor, and you have graveyard up, so like you're getting double battle cries, and then your Necreum blade is breaking. You're getting even more crap. Like it's like there's a lot of stuff you can do in Wild where we're both mostly using the starships to armor up, but I'm hearing they are not the nuts in Standard, and they are not doing great. And there's some debate in the community that maybe Starship is such a poor mechanic that no number of nerfs is going to save this thing. We're just going to have to just
everything to make Starship.
Just nerf everything until like make Chillwind Yeti a 4-mana 3/3. Maybe Starships have a chance then. Like it's a little rough. It's a little rough, and they're trying to do it without pushing, where they're not like, okay, the Exordiar is now 5 mana. Like, they're trying not to push it too far, but, like, still, it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, let's get into I love how they actually didn't even wait for the end of the list to do it. The first one on the list, Reno, the Lone Ranger. So, the old version of our buddy Reno. If your deck started with no duplicates, empty the enemy board and limit it to 1 space for 1 turn. So poof, right? Now, if your deck started with no duplicates, remove all enemy minions from the game. So you don't have the board space limitation anymore. So
Good.
It still poofs. Still poofs.
Uh-huh.
But guess what? You can actually, your opponent can play your cards now.
And
Which
also,
is
no
amazing.
location, starship, none of that gets poofed now too. So like you can play
Yeah,
fun cards like Sargeras.
So it says minions
Sargeras.
specifically.
Yes, which is like, well, when they came out with the Starship expansion, having Reno also in the Reno able to wipe out the board in the Starship expansion, being a very popular and powerful card, seemed like a miss for me. When they nerfed all those cards going into the expansion. I was shocked that they didn't also change Reno. For the same reason. So it's just like, well, why bother? Like, we were joking in the theory crafting. You know, Zeddy's like, by the way, if you play Reno, we're banning you next year. Like it was just like joking around about how like people want to play starships. People don't want their starships deleted. So why allow the most powerful card in the game to exist is a little bit baffling. But for the short term, I didn't know I had to defend this position in wild circles, but wild players are like, oh, well, Reno's dead. They deleted Reno. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is still a busted card. Now, without the board space limitation, could they realistically, and Martian Boo tweeted this out first, though I have thought similar things and agree with him wholeheartedly. Could this be 8 mana with these stipulations? If your deck started with no duplicates, remove all enemy minions from the game, and 8 mana, like one-sided Twisting Nether, that'd be fine. In fact, Twisting Nether's a little bit better. It destroys locations. I'd be okay with it existing in that form. Maybe when we do reverts, they don't go the full revert, and we never see the board limitation. Preyage. Like, this card can be cheaper and still be an awesome payoff, and like not do that like thing that's like 2 years in advance of the of where Hearthstone is expansion wise. I don't know. How do you feel about this change besides like joyous and rapturous and lots and lots of confetti?
I played post patch and somebody renoed me, and then like my face was being highlighted. That I played cards the next turn, they roped. I don't think they got the patch notes.
Yeah, typical wild player. They probably were unable to read the patch notes, to be completely honest with you. I know that there's no actual like written word when the changes to the cards come up on the screen. But the thing you have to realize is that when those notifications popped up on the wild player screen, they started pawing at the screen frantically because it wouldn't let them click the play Hearthstone button. So they clicked through them furiously without actually gaining any of the information. I absolutely know exactly what happened in here. Yeah.
So I'm somebody who I'm so in between. So back in the old Hearthstone, when they nerfed something like once per year, that was insane to me. That took way too long to nerf stuff. Now they balance like crazy. They do it multiple times per set. They're all over it. And now for me, I'm always like, oh, like they'll nerf something 2 days into a set. They've done it before. And like I'm always like, come on, let it ride for a bit. When there's a new card that's affecting wild and everyone's complaining instantly, I'm the first person to say, just let it ride for at least a couple weeks. It is changing. Though. It is changing the meta. Like people say, oh, the meta is so stale. And then it gets flipped on its head and then everyone's mad about it. And I know it depends, but I like to at least let it happen and at least let somebody try to find a counter to it. Right?
I'm glad we...
However...
Devil's advocate. I'm glad we didn't have Radiant Elemental Lethals with light speed on turn 2 to start the expansion. Okay, like that was an appropriate nipping of the bud of something horrific that was going to happen to us.
I agree, but I feel like sometimes you got to let it ride for. It's so funny. I think there was.
Well, they let Reno ride a long time. They let that mustachioed buffoon ride a long time. I'm glad that he finally got his comeuppance. We knew he was going to be nerfed the minute they revealed the card. We knew it.
There was one time it was over like winter break or something like that. There was like people were demanding nerfs, but the whole Blizzard staff was on like holiday.
I remember. Was it Dark Glare? It was like Dark Glare.
It
People were like,
might have been
please,
Dark- I
can you
think it was
nerf
Dark
Glare? They're like,
Glare.
yeah, we'll take care of it. And
When
like,
we're back on
it's like, guys, they're not
January
coming back
2nd or
till after
whatever.
New Year, so you just gotta suck it up.
That's so funny. Oh,
I remember that, yeah. And Get Me Out and Corb are still streaming. Like, I can't believe I can. And they're like trying to be gracious about it because, like, I mean, people deserve time off, but at the same time, like, oh, I wish they had. Or there was some weird bug, and right, so they had the game basically like on like freeze, whereas like there were no changes were going to be locked in. Like that was it.
Yeah,
poor guys. Poor guys.
Good
Anyway,
times.
we've yelled about Reno cathartically enough. Some of these are less impactful for Wild than others, but that's what's funny. Despite there being only one Wild change, 2 if you count the unbanning of Ceaseless Expanse. Sorry for the spoilers. But there's Wild caught a lot of stray bullets in this patch, a lot of them. Lamplighter used to have the scaling effect as you played elementals. The body was largely useless, and so you didn't really care. Now it's a 4-mana 4/4 Battlecry. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 4 damage, which is a fine card, but is a humongous fall from grace from where Lamplighter was as a card. And we saw in the Wild Open, hosted by Maxi Bond and KVLT with a little bit of support from Blizzard. Thank you for supporting a grassroots Wild tournament. So the finalists brought Elemental Shaman that was basically built around this card. Like it was like, Wild adjacent in relevance. Is it still a Wild adjacent? No, probably not right now. It's like an okay card, but like, we're back to doing Scar or Kalimo stuff instead of this. And is this something they're going to revert when it goes to Wild? I don't know if they do. They didn't fully revert Shockspitter. I don't know if they're ever going to fully revert Lamplighter, but sort of Wild relevant, but like,
Now it just kind of does elemental things, kind of like a fire elemental or blaze caller, just like deal damage when played.
It's fine. Like it's an okay card. It's not, but it's not like it's not like Shockspitter on crack.
If it was released like this, like a 4-mana 4/4, that the second you play it, it eliminates the other opponent's 4/4. Like that's cool. Like
Nutty Arena card.
Yeah,
I like the original Lamplighter though. Bring it back. Bring back 3-mana Lamplighter, you cowards.
You cowards. Right. Okay, let's move on to a card that drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah. Hydra does not rage about Hearthstone often in the Born to Be Wild DMs, like ever, almost ever. Except Hydra was just like, "Yo, but frick this card." Go ahead, Hydra, do the honors.
No, so Seabreeze Chalice.
He typed out frick. It was adorable.
A deal 2 damage, randomly split among all enemies. That was old. New random deal 2 damage, randomly split upon all enemy minions. Honestly, going from enemies to enemy minions, I want. If anything, I wanted my. Yeah, I don't know. This card.
Delete spell damage, Druid. Go on. Go ahead. What was happening to you?
I'm sorry. Yes, like you're totally right. I'm still gonna hate it. I'm still gonna hate this card. Hopefully everybody cuts it. I don't know, but yes, spell damage Druid. I've never been a fan of that deck, so that can go away. Like I'm excited for that. But anybody who ever ran this card or discovered this card, me, I played board-based decks quite a bit, and then now it's only actually gonna hit my minions. Because half the time I'm like,
oh wow, you're really mad about this. Okay, this makes more sense.
Hit my face. Right?
Hit my face. No, my minions. Now it's only my minions. No, I mean, but this functional this is a huge impact on the Wild meta. I mean, spell damage Druid, as far as like one of the best decks in the format, was the kind of best deck you want to have because it doesn't feel all that oppressive or hopeless to play against it, but also like it was okay to play and like it had a lowish play rate. It was never a huge swath of the format. Like you saw it and you were like, oh look, someone's playing the good deck. Like it's a tier 1 deck with like a 4% play rate, whatever it was. So it wasn't super pervasive, but yeah, this functionally ends the deck and is part of the reason why we're going to see a very different meta once we're done with all the nerfs. But it's funny to hear that you still hate it. That's hysterical to me.
Yeah, I still hate it because, like, while they gutted it, I'm like, but it's still now it annoys me more.
How did you made it worse and more annoying, Blizzard? You have failed on two fronts. No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah. All right, so next one, Conniving Con Man. So basically, this was always, the big spell mage card replay the last
Buffed
card replayed from a non-rogue class. Now it's going to replay the last card you played from another class. So not non-rogue. So what's the difference here?
So now this will not repeat mage stuff if you're a mage. This will not repeat paladin stuff if you're a paladin. Yeah. It has to be from another class entirely. So you can't go Conman. You can't go Ice Block into Conman. Ice Block, Potion of Illusion. The Conman to play Conman into Ice Block, into another Potion of Illusion, into Conman Ice Block. You get the point. Conman's, the rogue pieces are basically gutted and will not see play in Hostage Mage anymore. So we're going to have to. It doesn't kill Hostage Mage because we could still play other pieces anyway. And I think arguably I liked the non-rogue build of Hostage Mage a little better at times anyway. But Orb Mage, this doesn't repeat Orb anymore. So you can't use Conman as like a de facto parrot to like repeat Orb and play a bunch of spells for free. Like it deletes the card from Wild essentially. This card is no longer useful to us. And because it's not useful outside of the rogue class, basically.
Good change. If you like those decks, sorry, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
I dabble.
So yeah, I know.
Seashell, same thing.
Seashell, yeah, it's the exact same thing. Same text changed on the card. It's going to be reduce the card you play next from another class by 2 instead of non-rogue. So
we played this in Hostage Mage. Holy Wrath Paladin was one of the early enablers for an early combo. Because of this card, I was getting turn 4, deal 100 to somebody's face with a coin fairly easily. Unplayable in Wild now. Nothing really to add beyond that.
All right, then we have Sleep Under the Stars, a broken druid card.
Broken, busted.
Absolutely busted. Was 7 mana. It's gone up by 1.
Yeah. Affects Wild because you can't go Guff into Sleep Under the Stars immediately now. You would have to wait a turn. So that affects the turn at the edges. Warrior is playing this card in Skipper Warrior. Card is still kind of fine at 8, but it is a turn later. So, that's that. And you got to think about it. Refreshing twice gets you 6. Refreshing 3 times gets you 9. So, it's not quite hitting the breakpoints the same if you're looking to end with a certain amount of mana. Very funny is this card is very prominent in decks that use Ysayle, which is a legendary minion in Wild that we have that makes all spells cost 1. So does this sort of nerf the decks that use this card and Ysayle? Kind of yes. When the combo's scuffed and you don't have things going your way, your plays are more limited by the increase in mana. On the combo turn, is your combo turn scuffed at all? No, it's not at all. Not at all. So it's funny how this is sort of a change, and it's definitely like a light tap to some of the more prominent decks in the meta.
Yeah, when something is a low mana card and it goes up by 1, it's kind of a big deal. When it's a more of a late game card and it goes up by 1, not as of a big deal. Especially with such
Odin doesn't come down on 8 anymore. Odin comes down on 9. That is a definite change in play. It feels slower, but like you were saying, I think is like.
Well, especially Druid has the ability to ramp and all that stuff.
Yeah, Druid, mana is an abstract concept. Doesn't really matter. So, yeah.
Yeah. thank you for doing something. We'll see if this is still broken tomorrow. Like that kind of thing. So next card, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but Quasar. So Quasar's gone up from 6 to 8. So I'm gonna read the dev comment on this one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So yeah, our bad. Every expansion, we'd like to make new dreamy cards that get players thinking about how far they can push the game. These cards aren't supposed to be the most competitively viable. The fun of them is wondering, what if? Quasar mostly fell into that category. It certainly got the dreamers cooking, and it hasn't turned out to be a competitive power outlier. But the experiences when this card does work are too sharp, and the game ends too early, turning the dream into a nightmare to play against.
I got a turn 3 lethal with Quasar with the
That's pretty gross.
with the right conditions. You basically like ramp up into Quasar, coins, preps, Quasar on 2. It's doable, and then you top deck Gear Shift, and you're good to go. You win the game because you draw multiple cards, and they all cost 0, and you just ha 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 ha. Now it requires a little bit more setup. People are still playing Quasar Rogue in Wild. It was not good. It felt horrible to play against because they either bricked or you aggroed them down and they were like it's just like a boring like rogue punching bag and you weren't sure what they were doing because you never saw the cards that told you what they were doing. Or you died on like turn 3 or 4, or I think somebody did it on 2 once. I don't know. Like it just sort of, it's just like there's a way to do it. It's not a good idea, but I think there's a way to do it. It's just a nasty card.
The
Putting it
odds
up
of
to
that
8,
happening on
fine.
turn 2 or 3 are like have to be
You
astronomical.
need like I think you need 2 counterfeit coins. You need the normal coins. You need the prep. At 6 mana, you could cast it, right, for 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4, right? So 4 brings it down. Yep. Okay, so that's enough mana. So then you're
The dream
basically
hand.
like, yeah, you're riding and dying on whatever your 2 mana card that your turn 2 card is going to be. But if your turn 2 card draws other cards, you kind of win.
Yeah.
Which is like, ew.
Well, we'll see if people pull it off now that it's at 8 mana.
Yep, they do. They play a different card. The Naga that casts your top spell for free. They play that instead, and it's a little bit slower, and it's still bad. Still a bad combo deck, but like people still play it.
So the next one, everything must go. Went up from 8 to 9.
Completely useless and wild. We tried building around it, and then we cut it from those lists, and we played better cards. This card sucks. We can move on.
And then now absolutely hopeless. So good for you. Everything must go. You can go too. All right. So Malted Magma. So it was deal 1 damage to all enemies. Now it's deal all damage to 1 damage to all enemy minions. Doesn't go face.
Big Shaman was playing this because it went face a little bit. Some fringe kind of like spell damage shaman decks were playing this. Even Rainbow Death Knight was playing this because it went face. I think the going face aspect is a fairly big reason for why you ran the card, because it didn't feel bad just sort of ripping it when your opponent didn't have any minions on board.
Yeah, it's more of a control tool at this point because it doesn't go face.
Kind of kills the card a little bit. I don't know. This feels bad. But not a huge impact on Wild. Just kind of an impact on Wild. Like even Shaman ran this card. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, there you go. Even Shaman can find other things to run.
Super relevant, by the way. Right.
All right, so Wave of Nostalgia, also Shaman, went from
Ooh, we could play
5
them even now.
mana to, yeah, you could run this in even mana, or even Shaman if you would like. So yeah, that's transform all minions into random legendary minions from the past. So if you have a board full of useless totems that you were not able to buff up, here, see if you get Leroy Jenkins for lethal.
Nutty. No relevant application in Wild, nor have I ever seen it ever discussed.
Yeah. Not going to happen. All right. So Threads of Despair was 2 mana. Now it is 3 mana. So that is the DK card that gives all minions death rattle, deal damage, 1 damage to all minions.
Ouch. This used to be 1 mana. Can we remember when this was 1 mana?
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's 3. That's 3 times as much. This is like what I was getting at, I guess, when something is a cheap card and then it gets nerfed. It's like way more worse, right? So this is now triple the cost. You can't do that to a 7 mana card.
It's crazy. And you can't play it in even anymore, which wasn't like super relevant anymore. But I think the best Wild Death Knight deck was a Reno Control Death Knight that was 2 bloods and an unholy, and it ran this card, and this card is a big reason for why, if you were cleaning up pirates or you were cleaning up aggro, you could clean them up with this. Was pretty relevant. Not really a relevant deck anymore because the meta is shifting away from that being a decent option. So I think this does hurt that kind of deck, which I think was sort of real. Yeah, sad. Hopefully we get a revert on this when it gets to Wild because it's a cool control tool.
It will. I just don't know how much. If they go halfway or not. But, all right, so Reska the Pit Boss. Now 25 mana instead of 20. So 5 more things got to die.
I have been petitioning Wild players to cut Reska from their DK decks. In Standard, Reska's busted because in Standard you have these everybody's playing Titans, everybody's playing these like giant value bombs that are sticking on the field, or these giant minions, and Reska is stealing some big value piece. That doesn't happen in Wild. You're like rushing it into a 3/3 and getting a 1/3 in return. Like the card just sucks by the time you're playing it. I never include them in my DK lists. And now that it's up to 25, now you have the perfect opportunity to cut it forever from every DK list. Goody. Chat loves it. It's a Timmy deck. Timmy card. Reddit loves it. I don't like it. I don't think it's good in Wild. Even if it is one of the best cards in Standard, in my opinion. And this doesn't impact Wild at all, really.
I would
no
expect
playing it.
I would expect a full revert upon rotation.
Yeah.
I don't see.
Yeah, pretty easily.
This got to be a no-brainer on this one. And then maybe some people will play it again. Some.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's our favorite card, Funnel Cake. Double the cost. I know that you've got some feelings about this.
Yeah. So really funny thing about this card, I think this card has been making Radiant Elemental catch strays forever. Like we never talk about how good this card is, but
we did
when this was 0 mana refresh, 0 mana refresh 3 mana crystals in Miracle Priest. Like this was an enabler. This was a big enabler. And I thought that this thing should have gotten nuked a long time ago when we had Auctioneer Druids and whatnot. Now, getting touched to 2, it's a little bit ironic because is Priest ever playing this? No, probably not. Is like Auctioneer Druid ever playing this? Oof, that's really tough. Is Barnes Druid or are Druid decks that are built around Ysayle using this? Absolutely, because you know how much this costs when Ysayle comes down on the combo? This costs 1. So it's virtually, again, it's the same as Sleep Under the Stars. It's the same category where you have a really good card in a playable deck, and in the sort of scuffed between games, is the nerf going to matter? Absolutely. Is the nerf going to matter on the pop-off turn? Absolutely not. So, like, it's fine. I'd make it cost 3. I don't really care. But I am playing decks that use it right now, so maybe wait to do that. But minor impact in Wild, but at the same time, like not an impact in Wild, but a little bit of a little stray. It does make a Wild deck worse.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mystery Egg. So, Mystery Egg used to read Death Rattle, get a copy of a random beast in your deck. It cost 4 less. That now is 3 less. All the stats in the card are the same.
Yeah. Well, bye, Egg Hunter. It was nice knowing you. Deck functionally deleted, and because it's functionally deleted, it's...
Who's talked to Tom?
Lots of people. Lots of people have been pinging Tom. Lots of people have been like, hey, Tom, what you think about Egg Hunter? Hey, Tom, how's Egg Hunter doing? Tom at one point is just like, I'm shutting off Discord. I want people to stop talking to me. I'm just sad right now, okay? I need time.
This is all he did for like months.
The deck tracker was like 2,600 games or something like that. I don't know. It was at a 56% win rate too. So like that's pretty good over that huge swath of games. But at the same time, it's like out of 100 coin flips, you're winning 55 of them. Like that's a grind, man. That is a grind to have that many games at that win rate. That's like woof. Yeah, this is huge and Wild because without Lion Hunter, which, let's be honest, had kind of a toxic play pattern. Lion Hunter was kind of like waiting in the wings as like, here's this obnoxious thing that happens, but it kind of happens to a class that isn't very good right now, so we can sort of tolerate it. Kind of in the same vein that Flurgle Talks was in like, in Barons. If you guys remember, if you remember Barons, that meta where it's just like Shaman was terrible. They printed Flurgle Talks, and all of a sudden we get a cool deck like we played Shutterwalk in it, but it was like a Galakron Elemental Shaman that had Flurgle Talks as a package as a board wipe. It was a sick deck.
That is one of my all-time like most hated board clears. Is Flurgle
I know. Talks. And then like it turned into like, well, now Shaman's good. Can we get rid of Flurgle Talks? Like we tolerated it because Shaman was bad. And everything else Hunter does is kind of bad. Like Reno Hunter is occasionally like a decent deck. I've played some good Reno Hunter over, the last couple expansions. But like this is something that was like a staple. This was a tier 1 deck that nobody played. Like this was like a great deck, and it still had like a 3% play rate. Nobody played this, which was kind of that was kind of like a funny staple about the last couple metas we've had, where like the best decks like Spell Damage Druid and Lion Hunter, and like you knew these were like awesome decks, and these were good decks, strong decks, decent matchup spreads. People just didn't play them. And so deleting this, but the threat of them being there meant that like nobody was like super comfortable playing Seedlock. So with Mystery Egg gone and Lion Hunter gone, that is another shackle off of Seedlock, which when we finish doing the relevant nerfs, we can and buffs, we can discuss the meta and as it stands.
Sounds good. So next, here we go. Order in the court. I'm going to read the change. I'm going to read the dev comment on this, and then we can hop into it. So, old was reorder your deck from highest to lowest cost. New, reorder your deck from highest to lowest cost. Draw a card. That sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. Now, dev comment, on its face, this looks like a buff. But the intent of this change is to pull back on play pattern that is warping the Wild metagame. With the introduction of the Ceaseless Expanse, the deck got a payoff worth going all in on a way that made the deck faster and more consistent than ever before. This change will still allow for big plays while skipping over the turn 5 100 damage Holy Wrath target. With this change, the Ceaseless Expanse is no longer banned in Wild. So, Ceaseless Expanse is back, and we just got this reverted to the way it was before.
and you can still Holy Wrath people for 100.
Yeah.
Just not setting it up for a turn 4 to do that. This is a good change. This change makes the card better in a deck where you're like digging for your value. I love that. I was really sad when they nerfed Order in the Court, and then I was even sadder when the community, not me, but when the community said, well, we don't want Order in the Court reverted because Holy Wrath is the only good thing that Paladin does.
Yeah.
And which was true at the time. And so they didn't revert it because the community asked them to, and now they're buffing it again because the community asked them to, which is nice that they got this done. Worth noting that I have gotten several obnoxious people saying stuff like, well, we can't even play the Ceaseless Expanse after Order in the Court has been buffed. So, like, it says in the notes in bold at the end of this paragraph, with this change, the Ceaseless Expanse is no longer banned in Wild. So I thanked them for not only vehemently, showing me what their views were on the change and on the direction of Wild, but also being wrong and uninformed and ignorant. So that was awesome.
They couldn't quite read to the bottom of the paragraph.
Didn't quite get there. No. Playing Wild for a long
That's why they put it in bold, by the way.
makes-
It's supposed to grab your attention, make your eyeballs.
We can't even, Hydra, as a people, we can't even, us long-term Wild players, I can't even stand like the pop-ups when cards have changed. That doesn't hold my attention. I'm just like, where's the play Hearthstone button? And I click through them quickly, and I don't actually read them.
I do skim them through them too, but that's mostly because
you do. You're not looking at that carefully enough, right? Or like sometimes you get a message where it's just like, oh wait, what did the message say? Like the Hearthstone will be down between this and this and that, and be aware of service outages. I click right through that.
yeah.
I never read it, and I'm
and then
aware of
next
that.
week when it's actually down, you're like, why isn't Hearthstone
what
working?
the heck, man? They never told me
Can't
this.
log in.
Right.
I'll get a message
So
hat
anyway.
and say, what's up?
You can play the Ceaseless Expanse. You can, in fact, play the Ceaseless Expanse in Wild. I know this because, ironically, they just accepted my friend request. I played against a warrior last night who was using Lava Gorger and various cards. Like he had orbs, like the scrying orb, I forget what it's called out of nowhere, and a bunch of dredge cards. And if you dredge a card with Lava Gorger, you gain that much armor as its cost. And so he dredged the Ceaseless Expanse and gained 100 armor, and then did a bunch of like dredge effects where basically he was keeping the Expanse at the bottom of the deck by dredging other stuff up first so that the Ceaseless Expanse wouldn't pop up, so they could get Odin down, so that then they could dredge again, gain 100 armor, and punch me in the face with it. So like, you can play the Ceaseless Expanse in Wild. Like you just go play it, put it to your decks, have fun with it. It's back. No, you don't get a refund. They were saving our format. Holy cow!
No refunds. All right, so that
play another
basically was all of the nerfs. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one more thing. They nerfed Master's Call. Master's Call, I think, was giving you like 3 counts off of Discover because the words on it are Discover. So they changed its text. And so cards that are like Master's Call, where you're looking and discovering from 3 choices, I guess are getting a little bit of a rechange. But this one in particular, they were giving a refund. I don't know. They talk about it in bug fixes, and it's relevant. But they had it here in nerfs for a reason, where it was like it was making the Scrunkus printer. I don't know what it's called. You know what I mean? Like the funny little aardvark turtle thing that they have.
Yeah.
I don't know, Scrumbulus. And like you printed 2 of them, and like they're cute, but they're obnoxious to cut through, right? And the meat is not tender. And so this was discounting this by too much. And so they're like, no, we don't want that interaction.
And full dust refund for Master's Call, apparently.
So Hydra, for the buff section, I have already scanned through all of the cards that they have buffed. Can I direct us towards the one that I think is Wild relevant? Can you go to Interstellar Slicer. It used to be a 2-3.
This is the weapon.
And they buffed her to a 3-2. Again, Battle Cry and Death Rattle reduce the cost of your Librams by 1 this game. It was important. This weapon was nasty in theory crafting. Like, I think we pointed it out. We're like, whoa, that thing's for real.
And this happens like faster because you actually get to the Death Rattle quicker.
Yes, the same amount of damage, but you get to the Death Rattle faster. So it's actually a huge buff. Libram Paladin looks like playable in Wild. I've seen a couple of lists from people that I trust that are just like, nah, this is pretty good. I've seen Hyperion building them. But a couple other people have had good results with Librams so far. Like the new Librams are really good, and the old Libram package dovetails nicely into the new Libram package. And like, again, the new Libram cards are good with like balance, but also they balance out the curve nicely. Like the thing that's hurting Libram Paladin is it's hard to beat combo decks sometimes because you're not running any tech W. You have so much synergy in your deck, you can't actually add the crap that sometimes interacts with the opponent who doesn't want to be interacted with. So, but this card is definitely Wild relevant. What were you going to say? What are you thinking?
I was going to say this is crazy to me that a 3-mana 3/2 weapon with this effect exists. Like it seems broken. At one point, Fiery War Axe was just a 3-mana 3/2 weapon because it was nerfed to 3
it was too powerful at 2. Too powerful at 2 for a long time. For a long time. Absolutely.
And it got reverted, but it was a 3-mana 3/2 do nothing. And like you've read the text, right? This card is insane.
It's very good. It's very, very good. The fact that it makes your what's the 2-mana Libram of Wisdom or what it is? I don't know. The fact that it makes your smallest Libram 0 almost off the bat, thus triggering a lot of different synergies that are built into the Libram lists now. There's some spell burst, so like being able to play minions on curve and trigger the spell burst is very good. It's just this is a very in my opinion, this is a very good card. This was already a good card. It got a huge buff, and now I think it's like one of the best cards in the list, doing at what it's supposed to do. Remember, you play this, your Libram of Lose All Hope is playable on turn 7. So ew.
Yeah. No, you indeed. Like
I don't know if there's anything else that would be like close as to useful in Wild. I've seen Starship Schematic used in a fringe deck, but it's a meme. I'm going to call it an off meta deck. I don't think it's necessarily meta yet, but like we're working on again building like Mine Rogue, but with starships, and like you can run this card and it's pretty good. Discover a sharp start.
One less.
Yeah, right. It feels like a rogue card. Like you were making the Discover and it felt awful because you were paying full price for the freaking Starship piece. I'm like, this minion already sucks. Can I just get a discount? I already sank my mana into it, please. So like, this is a lot better. I've played this card today. This card feels good now. Everything else is kind of meh as far as Wild goes. Like nothing really relevant. And I don't know if any of it was really relevant for Standard either, to be completely honest with you. I'm gonna have to wait and see on that. But lots of strays getting caught in Wild on the nerf side. This is a huge patch for Wild, and the result is 3 decks that got touched the lightest that were near the top are Seedlock, Shadow Priest, which if you're going to play Shadow Priest, you should play the Renathal version. It is at least 5 percentage points better with the latest data, which is kind of bananas to think about. Basically, aggro isn't hyper aggro anymore. It's shifting back and back. Renathal is forcing it to shift back and back and back into mid-range. The Renathalization of the format is still in full effect, and it's becoming pretty obvious that Renathal is so broken. Why build a deck to be non-Renathal unless it has an excuse to not be Renathal? Like Big Shaman, which wasn't touched, which is very good. So we've got Seedlocks, which are, last I checked on HS Guru, 30% of the format. Yikes. You don't want that. And Reno pile players from Reddit are already incensed because Reno got nerfed. So now they're like, they nerfed Reno and Seedlock still exists. And it's every other game I play. Again, being a little bit dramatic, but like if you include Shadow Priest and Seedlock, that's half the meta play rate rise so far through HS Guru. So I think that Seedlock's probably going to catch a nerf again this time. Again, we don't know about this because, like, even from the creator's side, like, we haven't seen anything, but we can surmise that, like,
we can complain.
We can complain. Like, people hate this a lot, and I've defended not nerfing Seed in the past, and I stand by like defending it when I was defending it because the whole point was just like, hey,
there though. Wait
and see. No, this is like I'm at the point where it's like if people are directly not playing Wild because of Seedlock, just delete the cards. We have more people playing the format. I'm on that point, but like I don't think we were there yet because people were like, "Oh, this deck's OP," and then really it turned out to be like a tier 3 deck, and like people were running over it, and it was just part of the menagerie of Wild. When it stops being part of the menagerie and becomes like just stupid easy to pilot. It's not even beating stuff that it wasn't beating before all that much better, but with the use of Hearthstone is just like a 0-mana Reno for the deck and makes it really easy to pilot. And you can cut really deep like a moron and go all the way down to like 1 health and play your Hearthstone and you Reno right back up to full health and like it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of decks that used to burst you down when you made a mistake on your breakpoint, and those that doesn't exist anymore. So it got a lot better, and it's gross. I don't know. Are you gonna play some Seedlock now?
I was always the person that never wanted to play the big bad, but yeah,
it's gonna go. I think.
I tried playing Shadow Priest yesterday, and do you know what I lost to?
What?
Mechathune Warrior.
I'm so sorry that you queued into somebody still playing that atrocious deck. And I was like, it's a bad matchup for you too. That's the worst feeling thing. It's a horrendous matchup
because I was getting so close like every time. They had like 2 health, 3 health left. They kept armoring up. I'm like, I'm gonna get you. And their deck kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm like, I am gonna get you, and then I just didn't get there.
It feels terrible.
I was so close. I was so close so many times.
Dude, as an Odin Skipper Warrior player, whenever I play, when people
Skipper
are like
on like 1 or 2 or something, like as a tempo card.
Yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Like honestly, sometimes you do. It's like it depends on the scenario. If it sticks, you're good to go. If it doesn't stick, they just sunk 3 damage into it, and you don't have crap in your hand right now. So like you just did it to mind trick them into to Jedi mind trick them into killing one of your skippers, especially if they had the second skipper in hand. I could see it. No, as an Odin like armor gaining skipper warrior, when I play. When you play Mechathune Warrior, your resources are a lot narrower, and you have to be a lot more careful with how you use them, and sometimes you just lose the draw order, which is why I hate the deck with a burning passion, and I scream at chat every time they give it to me because I don't want to play it, and they're stupid buttheads. And so that's like, it drives me nuts because it's bad. And so, but your matchup is not good. That matchup is not good. No.
Well, on that note, I might have to ask you a question.
Okay.
Unrelated Advice with Schmoopydady.
All right. So tonight, Mrs. Hydra and I were looking at the pizza menu, and she's reading things off, and one of the things she mentioned was a buttered chicken pizza that was on the menu, but it was like really expensive. And I said, well, hold on, can I build a buttered chicken pizza for less, right? Because I don't remember the cost, but it was something silly. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I got to be able to to build it for cheaper. Let's see if we can, because they have this like 2 mediums for like $8.99 each deal from this place we order from, and I was like, and they only give you 2 toppings, but then it's only like $1.25 a topping extra. So I'm like, I could build like
That's not
the
bad.
ultimate
Decent deal.
butter chicken pizza for probably like $15 instead of like $30 that they were trying to like charge me for originally. So if you were going to build an ultimate butter chicken pizza outside of the chicken and the sauce,
And the butter?
I need you.
Do I have to include the butter, or is the butter included with the chicken?
I would like you need to add 4 toppings to the butter chicken pizza that will make it taste like an authentic, butter chicken. What goes with that the best? Build my pizza.
Well, aiding me in this cause is I've never heard of a butter chicken at all. I don't know what butter chicken is. I'm assuming it's chicken fried in butter. I'm sure maybe it's a chicken that exclusively lays butter. Maybe it's a chicken that spreads butter. That's its only function. Like, it was going to be an egg-laying chicken, but then it didn't do well on the test. And, its mom was disappointed in it, so it just decided that it was just going to spread butter now. I'm not entirely sure. So with this aiding me, because I think if I knew more, it might actually hurt me in this situation. I'm going to go with 4 classic toppings for a pizza. I'm going to start with jalapenos. Add a little bit of spice to your life, because
I like this.
Obviously that is what would go on a butter chicken pizza, right? Of course. And so the second topping I'm going to pick to balance the spicy with sweet is pineapple, because that is definitely not a topping that anybody is going to disagree with, right? The third topping is going to be ham, because ham and pineapple pairs well, and ham and jalapeno pairs well. So little bits of ham to go along with the butter chicken, or the chicken butter, or I don't know, the chicken feet that are spreading butter on your pizza as you're trying to eat it. Sounds inconvenient, but I don't know. I'm not going to judge other cultures. And so that seems like that would help out with the buttering. And that leaves the last topping, which Blue Train will sign off on, which is raw red onion.
Wiser words have never been spoken, and you heard that on
More to be wild.
Why is butter chicken?